Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we've got a stack of sources that really get into one of the most persistent and frankly most awkward problems in how organizations work.
It's a tricky one.
It is. Because if I say the words financial incentives, I think most of us, our minds immediately jump to those big headlines.
Pure greed, right. Massive bonuses, executives doing terrible things.
Exactly. And that whole framework is, well, it's emotionally satisfying, isn't it? Because if the problem is just greedy people, the solution seems simple.
You just get rid of the greedy people. Problem solved.
Right. But what our sources today really highlight is that's not the real story most of the time. The biggest systemic failures aren't born out of malice. They're born out of structure. So this deep dive isn't about, the 1% villain. It's about how sensible people like you, people like me, just trying to do a decent, honest job, how we behave when the system starts measuring our success in slightly odd ways. It's about this hidden gravity that pulls us all off course.
And that's a crucial distinction. Incentives, they're not always cash. They don't just suggest a path. They exert this powerful, quiet, gravitational pull on our behavior.
Gravitational pull, I like that.
Yeah, and the sources are really clear on this. This shift in behavior happens even when the resulting overall outcome is, demonstrably worse for the organization as a whole.
So that's our mission today.
Our mission is to extract the key insights that explain this paradox. Why do rational, sensible people make decisions that, when you look at them from, say, 10,000 feet up, from the level of the whole organization, just don't add up?
Okay, so let's unpack this. We should start small with this really clean example from the source material. I think it's called the factory paradox.
It's perfect.
Yeah.
Because this mechanism, it works the same way, whether you're running a tiny production line or a massive multinational company.
It all starts in a pretty logical place. So imagine you're working on the shop floor of a factory.
Okay.
Initially, the incentive structure is really easy to understand. Your bonus. It's based on overall company performance. Simple enough. If the company does well, you do well.
Exactly. So if production is smooth, maintenance gets done on time, sales are up, everyone gets a piece of the pie, your local work helps everyone, and everyone's work helps you.
That kind of holistic view is great, but it requires a lot of trust and maybe patience, and then comes the shift. It usually arrives dressed up as a new optimization strategy.
Right. A new manager arrives in your department, and their role, for what seem like perfectly good reasons, is defined differently. Their incentive is no longer tied to the whole company's profit.
So what is it tied to?
Their metric is based strictly on departmental performance. Specifically, staying within or ideally under their annual budget. They've been given a new, much, much narrower target.
And that is the moment the gravity field changes. For you, the worker on the floor, the official bonus structure hasn't changed at all. But the day-to-day reality of your job has just been completely rewired by that one manager's new metric. This is where the human element really kicks in, because that manager is now highly, highly rewarded for hitting that narrow budget target. Their behavior shifts almost immediately.
How so?
Well, they start encouraging the shop floor to delay equipment replacement. They start pushing back preventative maintenance schedules.
Okay, and why would they do that?
Because new parts, service contracts, all that preventative upkeep,
Yeah.
it all comes directly out of their departmental budget. If they can just hold off for a few months, maybe until the next quarter.
They look like a winner in the short term.
Very short term. But this is where the conflict comes in. Because eventually, that aging piece of machinery that needed a service, it breaks down.
And not just a small breakdown, a catastrophic one.
All right. You need an emergency shutdown. You've got engineers being rushed in, overtime pay, massive repair costs. It's a mess.
And the manager knows this intellectually. They have to know that a planned service costs, what, maybe $10,000?
But an emergency breakdown costs $50,000, and it wipes out production for 3 days.
But here's the rub.
Here is the absolute rub. That $50,000 emergency repair bill. It doesn't come out of the local manager's budget.
It comes from somewhere else.
It comes out of the separate emergency repair team's budget or maybe some corporate reserve fund. It is officially no longer the local manager's problem.
So if you're looking at this from the company's perspective, from that macro level,
Yeah.
this is a disastrous decision. It's just terrible.
Awful. Breakdowns cause stress, they damage other equipment, they wipe out output, and they cost 5 times as much. Systemically, it's a profound failure.
But if you are that local manager.
If you're the local manager, just looking at your own specific performance criteria, you are succeeding. You're doing a fantastic job.
You're maximizing your bonus, you're reducing departmental spend, you are doing exactly what the system is rewarding you for doing.
Even though your personal success just cost the company an extra $40,000 and 3 days of lost production, the sources have a name for this. They call it localized optimization.
And that is the vital central insight here. The manager isn't a villain. They're not being dishonest. They are responding sensibly and, dare I say, rationally to the rules they've been handed.
It's the very definition of doing what you're measured to do.
Absolutely.
And what's really interesting is that this localized optimization, it doesn't just stop with the manager. The shop floor workers, you adjust as well.
How do you mean?
Well, you stop flagging those minor issues, you see. You hear a new creak in the machine, you notice a little wobble, and you just work around it.
You learn to live with it.
You quietly accept that, oh, this is just how we run things now, because you know that reporting a potential issue means creating a problem for your manager, which might create a problem for you. So that local acceptance becomes the new reality.
Even though, deep down, this isn't what's best for the long-term health of the company.
That subtle adjustment, that quiet acceptance of the new normal.
That's the gravity. It's
Yeah.
a silent, powerful pull toward that local maximum, not the global one.
It's easy to dismiss this as, just one factory problem, a simple budgetary error affecting a few people. But the sources are so clear that this dynamic, it doesn't disappear when you get bigger.
Oh no, it gets exponentially louder
Yeah.
and more complex.
We move from that one single department to a sprawling organization. So now you don't have one manager with one budget. You have dozens of managers.
All with their own diverse budgets, different quarterly targets, specialized KPIs, unique bonus schemes.
All pointing in slightly different and sometimes completely conflicting directions.
And here's the fundamental paradox that makes working in large organizations so frustrating sometimes.
Everyone is hitting their individual target.
Sure.
Every single manager is successfully staying within their departmental budget. Everyone is doing what makes perfect logical sense for their own small specific role.
And
yet the overall outcome for the entire organization spirals downward. You start seeing declining customer satisfaction, expensive internal conflicts, missed strategic goals. The whole ship is sinking.
while everyone on board is getting a medal for bailing out their own cabin perfectly.
That's a great way to put it.
And the sources stress the reason for this systemic mess is so powerful. It's not a conspiracy of incompetence. It's not because people are stupid. It's the invisible but incredibly powerful pull of all those incentives, shaping behavior in ways the original designers just never intended.
Which brings us to the counterargument, the one everyone uses when they look at a system failure. But they should know better.
Right. If the manager knows the emergency fix costs more, why don't they just override the local incentive for the good of the company?
Do the right thing.
Yeah, but that phrase, they should know better, it completely fails to account for the psychological trust you need to run any large organization.
You can't function otherwise, can you?
Yeah.
You have to assume that when a new target or budget appears on your desk, someone, somewhere, has already asked the obvious question.
The question being, what happens if everyone responds exactly as we're encouraging them to respond?
And how does that affect the overall mission? We're sort of trained to assume the incentive schemes have been stress tested for these side effects.
We trust that the people who design this whole matrix of targets, the people at headquarters, that they understand the bigger picture. When you're faced with a local decision, the path of least resistance is to follow the metric that impacts your pay, your performance review.
And just assume that the larger structure will catch any negative consequences.
Exactly.
But the real problem is that it's a system design failure. It's not a moral failure of the individual employee. The sources note that these systems often grow complicated, more complicated than anyone realizes.
And that's because they're almost never built holistically.
Right. Incentives get designed in isolation. Finance designs a budget metric over here. HR designs a promotion path over there. Operations designs a throughput target.
And they're all reviewed narrowly. They get signed off because, on their own, each one looks perfectly sensible. What's wrong with staying on budget?
Nothing. The failure is structural. Nobody ever modeled how all those individual pieces would inevitably pull against each other once real people, under real pressure, started responding to them.
So when the company fails to meet a major goal because every department maximized its own local efficiency, It's not intentional sabotage. It's an accidental failure. It's a failure that results from a system complexity that was just too great for any single person to fully comprehend.
So the factory manager isn't trying to break the company. They're trying to get a good performance review. And, that brings us to a fascinating point the sources make. It's really tempting to point a finger just at the bonus money.
Oh yeah, to say, get rid of the cash incentives, the problem goes away.
But the sources caution very strongly against making cash the singular villain.
Because bonuses are simply the most visible, the most obvious way that an organization signals what it truly matters. They're a signpost.
That's the key distinction, because sometimes the real powerful incentive isn't the cash at all. It's reputation. It's the desire for a promotion. Which is, that's a powerful, life-changing driver that outweighs a small annual bonus every single time.
More, and this one is huge, consider the simple act of avoiding blame. These non-monetary incentives are often about career security. If a manager consistently delays maintenance and by sheer luck the machines never break, they're seen as a brilliant steward of capital.
A hero.
But if a problem does occur, their immediate defense is, I was simply following my budgetary requirements. I prioritized hitting my metric. That ability to deflect blame is a massive, massive incentive in a complex system.
And there's an even subtler one, the incentive of not being the outlier.
The social pressure.
Nobody wants to be the person who raises their hand in the weekly meeting and says, just a thought, but our current set of metrics seems to be rewarding short-term success at the expense of long-term stability.
Because that makes you seem difficult or naive, or like you're not a team player, a challenger to the status quo. The incentive here is simply social cohesion. Just follow the established path.
Don't rock the boat.
Right. So once these signals, whether it's the budget number, the hope for promotion, or just the fear being seen as the difficult one, once they're quietly in place, behavior follows.
Not dramatically. Not overnight.
No, just enough to matter. It's the difference between a system operating at 90% efficiency versus, say, 85%, and that 5% cumulative drag, repeated daily, month after month. That's the total cost of the hidden gravity.
Which brings us to the inevitable cycle of correction. After things finally go really wrong, a huge breakdown, a big financial loss, a crisis where the systemic failure just can't be ignored anymore, incentives often get tweaked.
Right, budgets are adjusted, new checks and balances appear, everyone pledges to do better this time.
But the sources warn us about what happens next, the inevitable drift back.
Why does the problem keep repeating itself? Even after a crisis, even after everyone agrees, the system needs fixing.
Well, partly because fixing complex systems is it's exhausting. Changing the overall structure requires immense energy and focus.
And, crucially, as long as success in your day-to-day role is still primarily measured in those narrow, short-term ways, as long as that local optimization is still the most direct path to personal success.
And avoiding blame.
Behavior has a habit of gradually, quietly drifting back. It drifts back toward the suboptimal localized path. You just can't maintain the heroic effort required to fight the system every single day of your career.
The path of least resistance always wins in the long run.
That's the core vulnerability. Incentives don't need to be consciously reviewed or reinforced every day to be effective. They just need to sit there quietly, nudging behavior day after day, favoring the easy, measurable path. And once they're embedded, they are shockingly hard to push against.
Even if everyone involved intellectually agrees that the overall system is flawed.
Even then.
So, what does all of this mean for you, listening to this? If we're being honest, this analysis of incentives, it explains far more of the absurdity and dysfunction we see in organizations than we usually care to admit.
It really does.
It explains why sensible, rational people can make what look like catastrophic system-level decisions. And it explains why simple advice like, just use your common sense or just do better, was never, ever going to be enough to solve the issue.
You cannot lecture against an incentive structure. It's just too powerful.
But understanding this dynamic is, well, it's a huge advantage. It allows you to step back and look at your own organization or any system you're analyzing and spot precisely where that system might be secretly rewarding suboptimal behavior.
You can start to ask, where is local efficiency being incentivized at the expense of overall systemic health?
Yeah.
And it's often disguised as a perfectly reasonable, even boring metric that just focuses on short-term costs.
It fundamentally changes the conversation. It moves it away from whose fault is this failure, to the much more useful and interesting question. How is the system designed to produce exactly this result?
Hmm.
And that leaves us with a final and kind of awkward, unavoidable question built directly on everything we've analyzed today.
Okay.
If we know that systems will inevitably drift back toward what they reward, even when everyone involved agrees that the outcome isn't ideal, then what single mechanism is meant to keep the whole system pointed in roughly the right direction, holistically and for the long term? What kind of metric or incentive could possibly be robust enough and encompassing enough to override that hidden gravity year after year?
That is the question.
Something for you to mull over until our next deep dive.